Hey, Iostex here. I am a professional FPS coach and former professional coach for Overwatch League organizations like the New York Excelsior and the Boston Uprising, with now more than 5 years of professional coaching experience under my belt, running the biggest private coaching business over at iostex.com and helping out players for free over on my Discord's Ask Stux Anything channel.
Hello?
Hello.
Hello! I am melting. This European heat wave going on right now is very, very exciting.
Oh, that must be miserable.
It is pretty miserable. What's the temp like in the States?
I'm in New York City. It's muggy today. It's just cloudy and overcast.
The smog protects you from the sun's radiant heat. Okay.
Exactly.
Living in the city has its benefits. Okay.
Yeah.
So, what can I do for you today?
So I was gonna do my second session with you today. And look at another replay video.
Okay.
So yeah, I can get into it when you're ready, but basically I've had a huge improvement since our last session. I've gone up about 500 SR. So
that's very good to hear. To be very, very honest, if you gained 500 SR, it's usually pretty rare for people to get that big of a climb after one session. So I just want to pat you on the back a little, I guess, because that's I don't want to take full credit for that. Clearly, there's something that you must have done very correctly in order to see those results. Okay, let me. Yeah.
Yeah, but then I'm back losing and stuck again. So now that I've kind of reached the new 500 SR higher, it's a different game now. So
well, I would hope so. I mean, that's the point behind climbing, so you don't have to deal with low elo games anymore.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I mean, I guess we can just go into the replay. Just a heads up, because this is a follow-up session. It means that we're skipping a lot of the introductory talk that happens.
Yes.
That means that usually most follow-up sessions aren't actually 60 minutes. They're only 30 minutes. So, just in case it starts getting a little bit repetitive around the halfway point, I usually offer people to, save the remaining 30 minutes and then schedule them at another time. Just a little heads up there, because sometimes 60 minutes is just, kind of overkill.
Too much. Yeah.
But yeah, the screen share should be going, so you should be able to see the game.
Yep.
Okay, so what have you been working on? What have been the main changes?
Yeah, last time we were together, I would just throw my sticky bombs from a mile away. So I've been closing in on my targets and assassinating. Kind of as I get it higher, I can't flank every time, so I do have to stick with my tanks here and there. So I haven't been following everything you've been saying, but and then I'm still playing like a bronze. I'm making bronze decisions where my game sense is quite bad, where I just leap into fights I shouldn't be taking. So, but I do get a lot of kills early in this game, but I still lose.
Okay. So you feel more like you're more effective, but not quite enough to carry yet.
Yeah, I think mechanics are starting to develop like into silver or gold maybe, but game sense is like bronze still.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Then I guess we just take a look. Obviously, the main concern from my experience is when people climb a lot in a short period of time. Sometimes the matchmaker can overcompensate a little. So if people generally go on a little bit of a loose streak after they climb a lot of SR. It's kind of like an elastic band where if you go too far, it kind of bounces you back, and then you bounce back and forth until eventually you kind of settle at the rating that you're in. And then the second problem that some people face is that when they climb a lot, even though they're still not technically in like a super duper respectable rating, it still feels like it. So they tend to kind of respect the enemies a little bit, a little too much. So those are some things that I want to look for. Can you see the gameplay?
Yes.
Then let's take a look. There we go. People playing the Futurama theme on Dorado Attacker Spawn. The game will never change. Okay, let's go. So actually, before we look at the gameplay, so obviously you didn't know what the enemy team comp was when like you just ran
Right.
out of spawn. But now with the power of hindsight, just by looking at the enemy team comp, can you kind of analyze that for me? Like pretend that I'm the Echo player here, and I want your
Yeah.
professional opinion on how I should play. What am I looking for?
You want to go after targets you can kill.
Mm-hmm.
So the Grim or the Reaper there, sorry, not the Reaper, the Junkrat, he's an easy target, can't kill you. Maybe get him first, or maybe try to grab a support. And then you'll know that Reaper is going to flank at some point, and so get ready to fall back to your team and help with that.
Okay, so the first point is good. Junkrat on the enemy team should be your primary target, closely followed by the Ana, because they don't have great ways of defending themselves, and they're pretty easy to kill because they don't have a lot of mobility. Baptiste, of course, a little bit more difficult. If you try to kill him, he can just react with his immortality field, and then you've just wasted a bunch of time. But you said that the Reaper might be going on flanks, so that's something that you need to react to. That isn't quite true. Can you think about what the flaw is in that thought process?
Ooh, I don't know the flaw,
what's
but
the problem with reacting to the Reaper's flanks and helping our team?
Well, I want to keep my supports alive. That's why I have that wrong thoughts, but I probably will have to go across a lot of open space to get back quickly enough to be effective. That's my guess.
Yeah, so basically, since you're a kind of a flank assassin-based character, usually you don't want to play anywhere near your supports, which means that trying to go back and peel for them costs you a lot of time. And then number two, you kind of need to be aware of which role you play in the team. And as Echo, your role is very, very one-dimensional. There's only one thing she's good at, which is killing squishies, assassinating squishies. She's very one-dimensional, in that regard. Other characters might have multiple playstyles. So, for example, Soldier, he's a character where you can also go for picks and high ground and 1v1s, but you can also just play with your front line and get a lot of value out of your healing field and burn shields and that sort of stuff. With Echo, you don't really need to make that choice. Your gameplay is very one-dimensional. Your job is not to protect the squishies on your team, it's to kill the squishies on the enemy team faster than the enemy team can kill the squishies on your team. If that sentence makes sense.
Yes, it does.
Okay. We want to do whatever we are good at, because imagine I was coaching this Reaper player, Ideally, let's say that he sends in this replay code, and then he tells me, "Oh yeah, this Echo, she kept killing my backline, so I'm just going to, I wanted to peel for my backline." From your perspective here as the Echo player, that would be kind of an unwise decision by the Reaper, because the Reaper is more spooky to you and a bigger problem for you if he's trying to get kills, because that's what he's good at. But if he's always reacting to the problems that you are creating, that's good for you. Because it means that he can't do what he's good at. You're forcing him into, you're basically telling me either you get picks faster than I get, or you do something which your character isn't designed for, which means you're useless, or you need to swap. Which also isn't great, because generally speaking, the first character someone picks in a ranked game is the character that they believe gives them the highest chances of winning. So by just focusing on being the biggest problem for the enemy team, you basically force them into an awkward situation.
Right.
Okay. Perfect. Then, so right here, this is already a little bit slow. You start going right side, presumably because you want to go on a flank, see if maybe you can kill someone here, which is good. That's good. But then you turn around.
Yeah, the mindset is wait for the team fight to develop before I charge in, because bronze is slower, so I do find if I'm too fast, I just die. Whereas if I give them a second, then I live. But that was why I thought that.
Okay, you have two options as Echo. You can either go for kind of a solo assassin-y playstyle, where you do not wait for anyone, and with that playstyle, your main goal is to get picks. So the definition of a pick is a kill that's that creates a numbers advantage before the team fight has started. That's like the formal definition. Or alternatively, you can go for more of like a follow-up based playstyle, where instead of looking for early picks, you just wait until someone else on your team goes in, and then you help them kill whatever they want to kill. Now you are currently pursuing the second playstyle, where instead of just trying to get into a position, behind the enemy team, into like a flank position as quickly as possible, so you can get a pick as quickly as possible, you're kind of hesitating a little bit because you want to wait for someone to go in. But if you look at your team comp, the only person that's going to go in is the Hammond.
Mm-hmm.
No one else on your team is going to jump in. So you're basically waiting on just one person to go in. Now, at high elo, and I mean very high elo, you can do that with just one other character. If you're in like a high GM lobby and you have a Hammond, then it's okay to play around him. But the lower elo we get, we basically either need more people who dive. So if you had like a full-on dive comp, like a Hammond, Diva, Tracer, Lucio, like super duper divey, then the playstyle might also be viable, because then you don't need to wait on one individual. You just, you can follow up on any person going in. But even then, you still run the risk of just nobody really doing anything. And another problem is that as you get into higher ranks, your team is going to become a bit more predictable. You'll kind of know what they do when. Whereas in low elo, they're less reliable, less predictable. So playing around them becomes even more difficult. The gist is that in lower ranks, you basically want to make yourself as independent as possible and pursue a playstyle that's as independent as possible. So for those reasons, you do not want to stay with your team here. You do not want to wait for anyone to go in. You want to, if you go on flanks, if you say, oh, well, in my other games, I would have just gone here and then tried to, I don't know, dive the Ana or the Junkrat, but I would have died, then instead of completely changing your playstyle, you need to look at how you can more successfully assassinate people. So maybe you just missed your abilities. That's, pretty straightforward. Just practice more. Maybe the engage timing was too slow. Maybe you missed your opportunity. Maybe it was a little bit too fast. Maybe you should have waited a second or two for the enemies to divert their attention away. Maybe the approach you had wasn't good. Maybe the enemy team spotted you before you went in, etc., etc., etc. So there's so many things that can go wrong that it's very dangerous to just immediately swap to an inferior playstyle without first kind of experimenting around with other options.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I'm going to be drinking some water on the side, otherwise I'm going to just dry out.
No
worries. So that's kind of the big problem, because this is like very, very, very slow. It's been 15 seconds since the game started, and you're nowhere near a position to actually kill anyone.
No.
And you're kind of doing what we talked about last time, where sticky is like that. This is a wasted sticky. You want every single sticky you throw out to have kill potential, to potentially result in a kill. This doesn't. This is not what stickies are good for. If you want to play like this, you can go Junkrat, and you can just spam bombs against the shield, and you can break it. That's a viable playstyle for someone like Junkrat. But we're an assassin. We want to focus our damage. We want to make sure that every single bit of damage we deal counts and goes towards a target that, can potentially die. And then right here...
I am really focusing on that, but sometimes I'm not brave enough, and so I will get better at that. I'm not ignoring you. So
the thing is about the brave enough. So you hesitate because you're kind of scared of like throwing the fight because you might miss your abilities. Okay, this is like kind of a big mindset shift that a lot of people need to do. The games here are very, very meaningless. There's a big difference between going to college, working on your bachelor's thesis, and making a mistake in there, compared to raising your hand in second grade geography and naming the wrong river. Okay?
Right.
As patronizing and demeaning as it sounds, this is second grade. You're supposed to try stuff out without knowing whether it'll work. Because the whole reason you're here in this rating is because you don't know for certain anything that works, you know?
Yeah.
That's the point behind playing in this rating, so you can try stuff out, you can recognize patterns, you can practice. If you lose a game here, the skill rating isn't worth it. It's not like you're a rank 1 player and if you lose the next game, someone else is going to take your rank 1 spot away. You're not at the Overwatch League final stage, potentially losing out on hundreds of thousands of dollars, you know?
Right.
You're losing, like what, like 23 like bronze SR? That isn't worth much on the secondary market. And you don't need to worry about, in quotation marks, throwing the game for your teammates because you're bronze. You know, even if you try to play correctly, you're still going to throw. So you kind of just need to accept that, and ultimately, you're not the reason your teammates are in this rating. You know, if you try stuff out because this is the rating for trying stuff out, and it goes wrong, and then your teammates are like, "Oh my God, Echo, you're feeding." You feeding is not, you know, like tough shit. If they want to play with people who already know what to do, they should climb and get better, and then they can play with people who don't need to randomly try out shit until something sticks. Okay.
Right.
So yes, please, for the love of God, just treat these like tutorial matches. You are so far away. Once you're in high elo, you kind of go into like higher elo, like maybe starting around plat or diamond. That's when you enter an elo where people usually go, or what I recommend them to do is they go into like kind of an ebb and flow system where you know, a season is like, how long is a season right now? Like 8 weeks?
I think so.
Where they basically spend 6 weeks just trying random shit out, not really giving a crap about whether they win, just focusing on improvement. And then for the last 2 weeks, they go into like a try-hard push, you know, to see if all of the stuff they've learned in the past 6 weeks is going to result in them, you know, getting a higher rank. You're not quite at the rating yet where there's really a difference between playing to win and playing to improve. Because you can't play to win yet, you know? That's not a valid playstyle for it because you don't know how to win yet. That's what we're trying to figure out. We're trying out different stuff in order to see, oh, this works, this doesn't work. And then later on, you have like kind of a foundation that you know works, and you can just do it, do that. I know there was a bit of a convoluted explanation, but I hope it makes sense.
It makes sense.
Okay, very good. So yeah, right here you are just wasting so much time. It is incredible. It's been like 10,000 years and we still haven't done like a single assassination attempt. And right here, this is an example of a reactive play where the enemy Reaper kills someone and then you go and kill him. That is not worth it at all because he's the one who got the first kill. So even though you got this pick, it doesn't necessarily translate into you guys actually gaining any ground. So it's been half a minute, and within half a minute, like as an assassin, you should have at least 1, if not even 2 assassination attempts done. And then ideally one of those 2 should have worked. But yeah, again, just like very, very, very slow on pace.
Yeah.
Okay, and then right here,
I'll try to...
very, very confusing. So now you're in like a decent position, you know, you're behind the enemy team. This is where we can maybe do some stuff. And I would hope in retrospective it would be very obvious what you should do here.
Well, I should have stayed up top and killed Diana.
You should have ideally killed Diana. She's your primary target. So why?
Literally, yeah, what I'm thinking here is I watched another one of your videos where it's like, you got some picks, so we have an advantage. Now just get with your team and don't die.
That's
like,
the problem. You don't like what's your pick? You didn't get a pick.
Well, the soldier killed Junkrat, and so we're up on numbers. So I was just going to go back with them and push payload, but it's wrong. But that's why I did it.
So yes and no. Yes with. Okay, I need to think of a way to explain this so I don't like give out conflicting information. Okay, so your basic thought process there is correct. You have a numbers advantage, you want to push that advantage.
Yeah.
But how characters push that advantage is different between characters.
True.
So with a character like Hanzo or Ash or Kree or Junkrat or Soldier or whatever, with those characters, what you would do in a numbers advantage is you would just play with your team and break shields and focus tanks and all of that stuff. That is something that you can technically do as Echo. Okay.
Right.
And it can work. The problem
Oh,
is that there's little educational value for you in it, if that makes sense.
gotcha.
So yes, you are technically correct, which I guess is the best kind of correct. But in terms of improvement, we want to prioritize going for plays that are more representative of like the typical plays we would go for, which in this case would mean going for a squishy.
Yeah, I still should have gone for Anna. I totally agree.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I see like now you're in this situation where you're just with your team shooting shields again with someone like Soldier, Hans, or whatever. That would be good, but again for Echo, Sticky, you really, I can't think of a single situation. I hate using like absolute statements, but I feel pretty confident in saying that you should never sticky a Reinhardt shield.
Okay, got
Like,
it.
the only situation I can think of is like maybe if the enemy Reinhardt shield is about to break and there's a Diva bomb and the entire enemy team hides behind the Reinhardt shield from the Diva bomb and you think you can sticky bomb the shield away before the Diva bomb detonates. Like a really niche specific shit like that, you know? But in 99.999% of cases we do not sticky bomb shields. It's just not worth it. And then also again
Yeah.
it's a little bit confusing why so you just said you want to push your advantage here. But then
Well, and then I get distracted by shields, and I'm like, I need to fall back to break them, and yeah, I go into shield break mode.
yeah, and that's
So,
the problem. So as Echo, we never go into shield break mode.
got it.
This is not the way.
Well, you might see some of that. So, but I hear you.
Okay. So again, like you guys are like, oh yeah. See, and then right here, it's so confusing. Right here, so you kill the Orisa. Now there's like a Reinhardt in front of you with like 0 HP, and now we go for the sticky on the Ana.
Yeah.
You know? And then the sticky again is a very, very long range sticky. You had your shift available.
It is zoomed in.
You want to use it in order to
Yeah.
guarantee that it actually connects. So yeah, either you sticky the Rhine or you fly into the Ana and sticky her, but we don't do that because it's not very successful most of the time. Okay, do we have any questions so far?
No, I think it all makes sense. This is why I have you for a coach. This is great.
Okay, perfect. I feel very humbled. Okay, so same thing here. This is kind of a pre-fight phase where like whenever the card is just pushing, we don't want to linger.
Okay.
We want to try and get to a good position leading up to the next fight. So you can kind of visualize where the enemies are. In this case, they're over here. What positions could we potentially take? You look towards the left, you look towards the right. It's like crossing the street. You can either go over here and then, you know, look for an opportunity from here, or you can go left side and you can look for an opportunity from here. Right?
Yep.
We want to ideally it's called posturing before a team fight. Or like some people call it staging, but that's more on a team level, but it's not super important yet. Ooh, okay, right there. Okay, so we tried.
So,
We tried. Okay, so here's a little bit of like a mechanical specificity. So this you have a clear sightline on the enemy Ana, which is very good, and you've decided I want to kill this Ana.
Yeah.
You are very scared of getting slept here. You cannot be. Assassination attempts are more generally called all-ins. So that's not an Overwatch specific term, and all-in is like something about every single game. It's basically when you say, I am going to completely neglect any sort of defensive measure to just maximize my offensive potential. That's what an all-in is. Right, we're fully committed. So that means that right here, if you half-ass the assassination attempt, so if you're not quite sure that you actually want to go in, if you're not fully aggressive, your chances of actually completing the assassination attempt are 0. At which point you need to ask yourself, why would I go in? Right? The only way you can kill her here is if you all in, if you fully commit, but that involves risking getting slapped by her. more often than not, in bronze, she's not going to sleep you in time, or even if she does, she's going to miss it. So the statistics are in your favor. So when we all in, what is the most optimal way to use our abilities here when we want to all in? When we do not give a crap about anything except just maximizing our chances of killing the target.
Great. I really like this sticky bomb because it shows a problem I have. And I think it shows that I've switched from controller to keyboard and mouse, because normally on a controller I would flick to the target and the aim assist would finish it for me. You kind of see me spray it sporadically around them. Any tips on that specific problem, how to finish the shot when you're used to relying on aim assist?
There's basically just two answers. The first one is that, like, generally speaking, the closer you are to the target, the less of a problem it becomes. So just by changing our playstyle, it's already going to become less of a problem.
Sure.
And then number two, like, it's kind of a cop-out answer, but get good. Like, with practice, it's going to become easier. It's one of those things where you don't really need to think about it. It's just going to get better over time.
Yeah.
Okay. But back to the original question. So right here, this snapshot, are you familiar with machine learning?
Yes.
Ha! Okay, good. The rare moment where I can bring a machine learning algorithm. So imagine that the starting conditions for the AI for the neural network you're trying to train is this, right? So you give the AI this network, and then the performance test is pretty easy. Either the ANA ends up being dead or not, right? And you let the AI just train, so it can try out different ways of getting the kill here, right? So if you let that run over and over and over again, what is, like, the objectively speaking most optimal way of maximizing our chances of killing her here? Exactly.
Fly straight at her, land as many sticky bombs, and go for the assassination. Be aggressive.
Exactly. We want to fly straight into her. That's the important part. Okay. Why is it so important that we fly straight into her?
Horizontal keeps my distance and makes it easier for her to hit me. Or no, you already said this. I give up. It's like the fundamental trade-off when you're strafing. Like, I'm giving up.
Yes.
Yeah.
So in this case, when we all in, when we go for assassination attempts, we don't care about any defensives. So the reason why flying straight towards her is good is because A, we get to her the fastest, and then B, while we are flying straight towards her, it's basically the same as if we were standing still, so it does not affect our aiming at all.
Yeah.
Okay, it's basically as if we were trying to land our stickies while standing still. Obviously, in turn, fundamental movement transaction, it's also easier for her, but again, we don't care about any of that. We're the assassin, she should be shit scared when we fly in a straight line towards her. But that's the most optimal play. And the problem here is that the first part of her dash just goes into the wall, which is
to hide.
not particularly good. And then right here, also, we didn't go straight towards her. And that's not good, because you could have been... So one thing you did correctly is you didn't sticky right away. So you first got a little close, and then you stickied. The problem is just you could have been way, way closer.
True.
Okay? Now, in terms of the actual mechanics with the stickies, you also want to adjust that a little bit, because you are aiming too high. So a fundamental part of projectiles, or not projectiles, but explosives, I guess. So Junkrat Mine, Farah Rocket, Echo Stickies, McCree Flashbang, anything like that. You always want to aim for the legs.
Okay.
And there are two reasons for that. So reason number one is, if you just look at the character model, it's kind of a triangle, if that makes sense, like the hitbox. So the hitbox is just wider down here, so it's easier to land. And the main advantage that we have as most projectile characters like Echo is we can't headshot. We don't care about headshotting as Farah or Junkrat or Echo. So we just want to aim wherever the hitbox is largest, since we don't need to aim for the head. For characters that can headshot, the trade-off of heads being harder to hit is worth it, because we deal double damage in return. But we just want to go for the legs. That's advantage number 1. And then advantage number 2 is when you go for stickies and you aim too high, you can see that they just fly straight past her. So they don't actually do anything. But if you aim for the legs, instead of flying like this, they would go down here on the ground, which means they would still deal damage to her. Maybe she would walk right on top of them, at which case they would deal basically the same amount of damage as if they were just directly stuck to her. Does that make sense?
Yeah, honestly, that is a really great point. I did not think of that, and I don't think I could have found a YouTube video to tell me that either. So that is going to help me a lot with the stickies. I've had a lot of problems with them.
That is
so
very nice to hear.
That is great.
And then just for the finisher, you know, take a look at where this sleep dart is going. Oh, tragic. Just tragic. But yeah, that's why all-in attempts are important. Let's take a look at one more attempt, and then I would just... oh, fuck, wrong player. I would just summarize, because that's more than enough stuff to work on. So we got our cooldowns back here. This is our second chance. Let's see what we do. Okay, so you want to...
yeah, so...
yeah, again, okay, let's not count that one. Also, you didn't really need to go up there. Again, the enemy Ana is not particularly bright. You probably could have gone for the exact same play from this point, just flying straight in. So this is just a little bit slow. It's something you can do before the fight, like when the cart was pushing earlier. That's where you can do something like this. But right now, because stuff is kind of going on, it's a little time intensive to do that. Okay.
Makes sense.
Assassination attempt, I believe. You have all your cooldowns, you're in a perfect position behind them, you have a target acquired, you need to kill something here.
Let's see.
Okay, well, I mean, not the target we were looking for, but I guess that counts as a successful assassination. So, I think that's a good note.
Learned something a little bit.
It is a good note.
Still bronze, but yeah.
So, do we have any questions? Because I do really recommend just calling it here, and then you have the 30 minutes left for a separate follow-up. Otherwise, it just gets a little repetitive.
Yeah, that's. I'll get to work on this. So this is great. Thank you so much.
Okay. Do we have any questions?
No questions right now. Let me try to learn what you just gave me, and then maybe I'll have them.
Okay. Perfect. I am going to... So normally, like, the plan was to do this after